My name's Aaron. I'm 32, and for the past 6 years, I've been the guy who makes things happen for my family. You know the type. The one who covers the late utility bill just this once. The one who wouldn't mind co-signing the car loan. The one who's expected to fly home for the holidays with gifts for everyone and pretend that every insult from the past didn't actually happen. For a long time, I played along. I told myself they were just bad at expressing love, or that maybe, just maybe, I was overreacting. But this last December, that's when it all clicked. It was 3 days before Christmas when I packed my suitcase, loaded the trunk of my car with presents I'd carefully picked for each family member. Even included something thoughtful for my sister's new boyfriend I hadn't even met yet, and drove 6 hours to the house I used to call home. I even stopped by my mom's favorite bakery on the way, grabbing that almond custard cake she pretends she hates, but always finishes before anyone else gets a second slice. I rehearsed in my head how I'd walk in with a smile, how I'd let the past be the past, and how maybe this year we'd just be normal. Just once. But when I knocked on the door, coat collar damp from freezing rain and arms full of gifts, my mom opened it just enough to poke her head through. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You weren't invited, Aaron. This is for family only." She didn't even sound angry, just inconvenienced. Like I was a salesman or a neighbor asking to borrow sugar. I didn't say a word. I didn't ask why or protest or beg to be let in. I just turned around. The cake slipped slightly in its box as I gripped it tighter and walked back to my car in silence. I sat in the driver's seat for a good 2 minutes, letting the warmth from the heater push back the chill that had nothing to do with the weather. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my sister, Melanie. "Don't take it personally. You know how you are." That was it. No punctuation. No context. Just a vague, smug jab that told me everything I needed to know. See, Melanie's always had this way of making me feel like I'm the one who's difficult. Like I'm the one who causes problems just by existing. She's 3 years younger, but you'd think she was the matriarch the way she talks down to me. She was the golden child growing up, cheer captain, homecoming queen, straight-A student. Meanwhile, I was the one who worked 2 jobs in college and skipped prom to help pay for dad's back surgery. Guess which one they framed photos of in the hallway? I stared at that text until the screen dimmed. I didn't reply. I just smiled, set my phone down, and opened the banking app one rarely touched except to send money their way. Over the years, I'd been the primary holder of a joint family account, something we set up ages ago for emergency use, but that slowly morphed into an unspoken ATM for everyone's bad decisions. Melanie's rent when her modeling gigs dried up, Mom's overdue credit cards, even Dad's Amazon addiction that nobody talked about. I never questioned it. I was the responsible one. The fallback plan. I froze the account, canceled every authorized card, locked the utility accounts that were under my name, the electricity, the gas, the Wi-Fi they always forgot to reimburse me for. Then I sat in that car, watching their porch through the windshield, and waited. At first, nothing. Then, maybe 20 minutes later, the front door swung open. Melanie came out laughing, probably saying something snarky, phone in hand, until she saw my car still parked down the street. Her smile faded. I watched her squint toward me, confused. She whispered something to someone inside, then went back in. I pulled away slowly, not in a rush. I had nowhere to be. By the time I reached my hotel, a cozy little place I'd booked as a backup just in case the family drama kicked off again, my phone had 5 missed calls. 2 from Mom, 1 from Dad, 1 from Melanie, 1 from a number I didn't recognize, probably her boyfriend. I didn't answer any of them. I poured myself some hotel brand tea, sat by the window, and put my phone on silent. The messages started coming in like a waterfall after that. "Why is the Wi-Fi down? Did you cancel the power? Call me now. Aaron, this isn't funny. You better fix this or you're going to regret it." Then came the one that actually made me laugh. It was from Melanie. "Seriously, grow up. You always have to make everything about you. This is why we didn't want you here." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. My voicemail filled up within the hour. The group chat, which I hadn't posted in for weeks, was blowing up with passive-aggressive comments that were clearly aimed at me without mentioning my name. Some people can't handle being told the truth. It's sad when your own brother can't support family traditions. Imagine ruining Christmas over nothing. Nothing. That word did it. That word hit like a slap across the face. Because for them, it was nothing. Everything I had done, every bill I'd covered, Every call I'd taken late at night to talk mom out of one of her spirals, every birthday party I helped organize, every loan I never asked to be paid back, all of that was just expected. And when I finally stopped playing along, they called it nothing. I didn't sleep much that night, not out of regret, but because something inside me had shifted. There was a kind of peace in knowing that the lines were finally clear, that I wasn't imagining things, that they really did see me as nothing more than a wallet with arms. The next morning, I woke up to 37 missed calls. My phone screen was a mess of red and blue dots, missed calls, voicemails, texts. I hadn't seen this kind of digital chaos since I accidentally got added to a college group chat about a missing roommate during finals week. But this time, it wasn't strangers asking if someone had seen Nick from econ. It was my mom calling 5 times in a row at 3 a.m. My dad's text went from casually annoyed to full caps threats. My sister sent a string of messages alternating between guilt-tripping and insults, with her signature, "You're being dramatic," sprinkled in. But the one that stood out was a voice message from Melanie. "No, hey. No, sorry." Just her voice, low and serious. "Hope you're happy. You left mom crying all night. We had to cancel the movie night because the Wi-Fi's out and nobody could even call the landlord since the electricity account bounced. This is why nobody trusts you. You always take things too far." That one? That was it. That was the message that hit like a final nail in a very overdue coffin. Not the fake concern about mom crying. Not the gall of mentioning the landlord while living rent-free in a house they hadn't maintained since 2019. But the line, "This is why nobody trusts you." Like I was the problem. So I took my time that day. I went out, got myself breakfast at a diner downtown. I took a walk through the holiday market, picked up a warm pair of gloves and some locally made candles that smelled like pine and cinnamon. The streets were busy, families bundled up, holding hands and laughing. I watched strangers treat each other better in 10 minutes than my own family had in years. At noon, I walked into a local law firm. Not a massive one, but respectable. Clean lobby. Courteous receptionist. I'd found them online the night before. I didn't need much, just someone to help me cut the last few cords cleanly. I sat down with a lawyer named Greg, mid-40s, wedding ring, slight limp, wore the kind of wool vest that said, "I own a boat, but I'm not obnoxious about it." I explained everything. The joint account. The utility bills in my name. My car, the one Dad had been using for the past 2 years without ever offering to pay insurance. The secondary credit card I'd let Mom have just in case, which she used to pay for spa days and overpriced cookware. Greg nodded a lot. Asked a few clarifying questions. Then he leaned back and said, "You've been holding up a house of cards, Aaron. And it sounds like you finally stopped playing." He helped me draft formal account closures, pulled credit checks to flag anything suspicious, and even offered to send cease and desist letters if they tried to use my name for anything again. He didn't even flinch when I told him they had passwords to some of my streaming services, too. Just chuckled and said, "Let them miss an episode of The Crown." That night, I drove by the house again. I didn't stop, just slowed down enough to catch a glimpse. The windows were dark. Christmas lights still up, but half of them were out, a fitting metaphor, honestly. I imagined the scene inside. Mom probably pacing with a cordless phone, Dad flipping through mail, Melanie complaining about how she couldn't even post her holiday outfit without Wi-Fi. I felt detached. Not angry, not bitter. Just tired. Tired in a way that doesn't go away with sleep. And then, right on cue, the group chat exploded. Melanie texted, "So I guess you think you're teaching us a lesson?" Dad texted, "Grow up, Aaron. You're punishing your mother for something she didn't even say." Mom texted, "We're your family. Don't forget who raised you. This is cruel." Even my cousin Jason chimed in, a guy who hadn't spoken to me since he crashed my car senior year and never paid a dime. "This is just petty, man. Hope it was worth ruining everyone's holiday." I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, I went back to my hotel room, made some tea, and opened a folder I hadn't touched in a long time, one labeled Next Chapter. It was a collection of things I'd been quietly saving. Job offers from out of state, apartment listings in cities where no one knew me, a few brochures for grad schools I never had the time or money to consider before. Suddenly, it didn't seem so ridiculous. But before any of that could begin, I had one more thing to do. The next morning, I sent a message to the group chat. Just one. No paragraphs. No lectures. Accounts closed. Utilities are in your names now. Merry Christmas. And then I left the chat. No dramatic monologue. No fireworks. Just silence. Or so I thought. because by noon, I was getting messages from extended relatives, aunts I hadn't spoken to in years, cousins asking me what happened. Someone must have been scrambling for sympathy, trying to paint me as the cold-hearted villain. But they underestimated one thing. For the first time in my life, I wasn't interested in defending myself. I let them think whatever they wanted. But the fallout? The real fallout? That's when things really got interesting. The first actual call I picked up came 2 days later. It wasn't from my parents. Not from Melanie either. It was from Aunt Sheila, my dad's older sister. She and I weren't particularly close, but she was one of the few people in the family who treated me with some level of decency growing up. She called around lunch, and for some reason, I answered. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the calm tone she used in the voicemail she left. Aaron, honey, just call me back when you can. No pressure. So I did. Her voice was soft, almost cautious, like she didn't want to scare me off. Hey, sweetheart. Listen, I don't want to get into the middle of whatever's going on, but I heard what happened. Your dad called your Uncle Pete, and, well, you know how fast that grapevine travels. Yeah, I said. Figures. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. Not for them. They're old enough to apologize themselves, not that they ever will. I'm sorry for not reaching out sooner. I knew things were off. I just figured you'd tell me if you needed help. That made me pause. I didn't expect empathy, especially not from someone in that family. I almost didn't know what to say. She continued, they're scrambling. You know, Melanie's been calling everyone, playing the victim, telling people you just lost it and cut the family off over a misunderstanding. But I know better, Aaron. Your dad's car insurance renewal bounced. Your mom's been borrowing money from your grandmother, who has no idea why she suddenly can't afford groceries. I closed my eyes and exhaled. That's not my fault. I know it's not. And I want you to know, you don't owe anyone an explanation. They depended on your silence for too long. Let them squirm. You didn't burn a bridge. They set fire to the foundation and expected you to rebuild it. That stuck with me. I thanked her, hung up, and then just sat with it. That weird mix of validation and emptiness. I'd expected anger, rejection, maybe even a half-hearted apology. I hadn't expected one of them, even if distantly, to side with me. Still, the rest of the family was rallying hard against me. I started seeing posts online, vague ones at first. Melanie's Instagram story said something like, "It's always the ones you help most who betray you the worst. Pray for clarity in 2024 victory hand." My mom posted a Facebook status about raising children just for them to forget the meaning of family. And Dad, well, he went old school. Called every cousin and neighbor to tell them I'd shut down the house out of spite. But the kicker? They actually tried to reopen the joint account. Melanie must have gone into a branch and tried to play it cool, act like she was just the other account holder checking on some technical issue. But the new security locks I'd added with Greg's help made that impossible. I got an alert that someone failed the identity verification questions. 2 hours later, I got a text from Melanie. You've made your point. Now fix it. Not apologize. Not talk to us. Just fix it. I laughed. Actually laughed. In public. At a grocery store. That was the moment I realized they hadn't changed. They weren't shocked into self-reflection. They were just inconvenienced. And I was done being convenient. So I went a step further. See, my name wasn't just on the joint account and the utilities. I also co-signed the lease on that house 2 years ago when Mom forgot her credit score was tanked from a retail card meltdown. I'd only agreed to help because she told me it was temporary, just until your father's settlement clears, sweetheart. That was 25 months ago. No settlement ever came. No rent payments ever touched my bank. And yet every year, I got the lease renewal notices, always addressed to me. I'd ignored them. Until now. Greg and I drew up the notice to terminate my part of the lease. I had every legal right to walk away, especially since I hadn't been residing there, and there was no formal agreement that I'd stay on. I filed it, mailed the copy, and waited. It landed at their house 3 days after New Year's. By that point, I'd already flown out to Portland, a city I'd only visited once but always liked. I booked a 2-week stay at an Airbnb near the river while I figured things out. On the second morning, I got a text from an unknown number. What is wrong with you? No context. But I knew the tone. An hour later, Melanie called again, this time from a new number. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail, though. Her voice was high and tight with stress. You canceled the lease. Are you trying to make us homeless? Do you even care about anyone but yourself? I listened to the whole message. Twice. Then I deleted it, and took a long walk along the waterfront. For the first time in years, I felt untethered. And not in a bad way. In a clean slate kind of way. But the story doesn't end there. Because a week later, something unexpected happened. They showed up unannounced. I'd been in Portland for just over a week when it happened. I'd found a rhythm in the quiet. Mornings were peaceful, coffee from the corner shop, walks along the Willamette, the kind of life that felt simple and clean. For once, no buzzing phone, no silent obligations pressing down on me. I'd started touring apartments. Nothing big, just one-bedroom places with big windows and kitchens where I could actually cook something besides stress and takeout. I even met with a company about a job in operations, low stress, decent pay, and nobody knew my last name. I was building something. Slowly, yes, but it was mine. Then came a knock at my Airbnb door. It was a light tap, almost hesitant. I looked through the peephole and felt my stomach drop. There, standing in a damp coat, hair frizzed from rain and face pinched with tension, was my mom. Behind her, arms crossed and eyes already narrowed, was Melanie. I didn't open the door right away. I just stared through the peephole like maybe I'd imagined them. But nope, there they were, in all their tightly wound, entitled glory. I took a deep breath and cracked the door open, keeping the chain locked. "You flew across the country?" I asked, genuinely stunned. Mom offered a brittle smile. "We just needed to talk. Face to face. Like family." Melanie snorted. "And clearly, emails aren't your thing." I didn't move. "You could have called." "We tried," Mom said quickly. "You blocked us." "No," I corrected. "I blocked you after a week of gaslighting and guilt-tripping." She sighed like I was a toddler refusing to nap. "Erin, sweetie, we didn't mean for it to get like this. Let us in. Please." I closed the door. Not all the way, but enough to force them to take a breath. I slid off the chain, opened it fully, and stepped aside. 10 minutes. They walked in like they owned the place. Melanie didn't even take off her shoes. Mom sat on the edge of the couch, adjusting her coat like it was a throne. "Honey, I know we've had some misunderstandings, and maybe things were said in the heat of the moment. You told me I wasn't family," I said quietly. "You opened the door to your son on Christmas and told him he wasn't welcome. I was upset. You weren't upset. You were cold. Calculated." Melanie rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, are we really still on this? You got offended and threw a tantrum. Now the whole family's paying for it." I turned to her. "You mean the utilities? The rent? The car? The credit lines? All the things I paid for without being asked, and without ever using against you. You did use them against us," she snapped. "You ripped them away like a child taking their toys back." I laughed. I couldn't help it. It came out sharp and bitter. "You think I'm the child here?" "We're struggling," Mom said suddenly, her voice cracking for effect. "Do you understand that? I can't afford the rent without you. Your father's credit is wrecked. Melanie's working part-time at a bar." "I know," I said. I looked into the lease situation. "You had 18 months to fix your finances before I pulled out." She sniffled. "This isn't you, Erin. You're kind. Generous." "No," I said. "I was convenient. And you confused that for kindness." They went quiet. Melanie started pacing, arms flailing slightly. "Okay. You've made your point. You wanted to punish us? We get it. But what do you want now? An apology? Fine. We're sorry. Now can you please just—" "I don't want an apology," I cut in. "I want you to leave. I want you to go back and figure it out on your own. The same way I had to." Mom looked like she'd been slapped. "You're serious. Dead serious. You told me I wasn't family. So I stopped acting like I was." For a moment, I thought Melanie might explode. She clenched her jaw so tightly I could hear her teeth click. "You'll regret this," she muttered. "You're cutting us off over a sentence." "No," I said, calmly now. "I'm cutting you off over a lifetime." They left. Not with a bang. No screaming or name-calling. Just the sound of a door closing behind them, followed by footsteps disappearing down the hall. I watched from the window as they walked to their Uber, still talking, still angry, still clueless. That was the last time I saw them. A week later, I officially signed the lease on a small apartment overlooking a quiet street. Nothing fancy. Just space that belonged entirely to me. I got the job. Started working with a team that didn't know me as the fixer or the responsible one. Just Erin. Just a guy with a clean slate and a well-worn laptop. Mom tried once more to reach out. A letter. Long-winded. Dramatic. "I still love you. This family is broken without you. You'll understand when you have kids." I didn't respond. Melanie, to her credit, didn't try again. I think, deep down, she knew the damage wasn't reversible. She was used to getting what she wanted, pouting, guilt-tripping, throwing fits. None of that worked anymore. I think that scared her more than anything else. And me? I healed. Not overnight. Not dramatically. But slowly. Day by day. With books and walks and people who talked to me without wanting something. I started therapy. Told the whole story. The therapist nodded a lot, like it wasn't the first time she'd heard of a family mistaking love for control. Eventually, holidays came and went without anxiety attacks. Birthdays felt like celebrations, not obligations. I built a new life out of scraps they didn't think I'd keep. And it turns out, I'm actually a damn good builder. I still think about them sometimes. Not with anger, but with distance. Like people you see in old yearbooks. Familiar, faded, and far behind. I wasn't their wallet. I wasn't their scapegoat. I wasn't the fixer, or the disappointment, or the emotionless problem child. I was just Aaron. And for the first time in my life, that was enough.